Welcome, my friends, to beautiful Denmark. And today we're going to take a look what's in my camera bag for 2025. But before we get into the bag, let's talk about the bag. And I got this bag like 7 years ago, and it was my first ever camera bag. And what I really like about this bag is that it's not too big and not too heavy, and it easily holds everything I need for my daily YouTube creation. And on the outside, you can attach different things. So it's very versatile, and you can also open this bag on the sides and on the top. And as I said, it's really robust and comfortable to wear, so I really like this bag. The main camera I use for my YouTube creation or my everyday stuff is the A6700. And I got this camera around 2 years ago, and I used it ever since for pretty much all of my stuff. The philosophy of my camera gear in general is that it has to be as small as possible while giving me the best image quality possible. So it's also a balance between size and quality for me. And this is where this camera actually shines, in my opinion. And the second reason I got this is it's the perfect camera for hybrid shooters. Let's talk about video first, because I'm mainly using this camera for videography. So this camera can actually shoot in 4K. It can go up to 120p. So you got in 4x slow-mo, which is also nice to have. I rarely use it, but it's always a great tool to have in your toolkit if you need it. And it got 10-bit color depth, so you can color grade the footage of this camera very well. And on the other hand, you have the photo quality, which is also great. You have 26 megapixel, which is completely enough for social media stuff, or if you want to print out a photo, this is also enough. And nowadays with AI, you can easily upscale images anyway. And what's also great about this camera is the autofocus performance. So the autofocus of this camera is unlike anything I ever experienced, because it got this AI-powered autofocus. And if you get a reliable autofocus in your camera, it's so much easier to create content, especially if you're doing run-and-gun style content. So having a reliable, good autofocus is, for me, it's very important. So this camera has the best autofocus I ever used. And the one thing that people say about this camera is that it's overheating, or that's an issue people fear about. But as I can tell from my experience, I never got this camera to overheat, so it never shut down. I got this warning of overheating once, and this was actually in very bright sunlight when I shot a lot of slow motion. So I can't say enough good things about this camera, because I love this camera so much. And ever since I got it, I use it all the time for all of my stuff, and I can only recommend this camera. Lustig. So next up, let's talk about lenses. And the lens I use the most, which is pretty much glued to my camera all the time, it's the Sigma 18-50 f2.8. It's the perfect balance between image quality, size, and also versatility. This lens is wide enough to do some landscape shots or do some establishing shots, but it's also tight enough to get detail shots and really isolate subjects. So if you're looking for the best all-around lens, I think you can't really beat the Sigma. And in addition to that, if I want a really small form factor, I use the Sony 20mm, which isn't the greatest optically, but it's just really small. So you sacrifice a bit of quality for the size of the lens, but it's like a great addition if you just want to have a really small camera with you, to meet friends and so on. So that's why I really like the 20mm as well. So next up is this little bag, and inside of this bag are all the filters I use for my content creation. And the filter that is glued to my camera pretty much all of the time is the K&F Shimmer Diffusion 1. It makes the highlights a bit softer. It's not too heavy, but noticeable. And the second diffusion filter I keep in my bag is this one. This is the Black Diffusion 1/4. It's a bit more stylized, it's a bit more glowy. And I use this filter when it comes to sunsets or night shooting. So I always switch between the two of them. The next filter is an ND filter, and this ND filter is strong enough to film in daylight because most of the time I'm not shooting wide open, and this filter is strong enough to cut out enough light to keep the shutter at 1/50th. And you can change the intensity of the filter, which makes it really versatile and easy to use. And you can just stack the ND filter onto the diffusion filter, so you can use both filters at the same time. That's how I use my camera like 90% of the time, I would say. So the next camera, it's actually this one. So the reason I got this camera is because it's actually small. It's a very small camera because you can take out the main camera, and this is like the best POV camera you can get, in my opinion. You can just clip it with a magnet onto your shirt and walk around the city, and that way you can film videos like I did in Bangkok, for example, where you can do some behind the scenes street photography. That's the reason I got it. So it's okay that it's not the best image quality, but you can sacrifice a bit of image quality for its size. And because of its size, you can just clip it everywhere you want. For example, I clip it on my skateboard or I clip it on my mountain bike. And this is where I don't want to put my main camera. This thing is also waterproof, so you can run into the ocean, for example. And yeah, it just gives you a lot of options, but it's not really necessary you have this with you, and I don't use it that often, so it's like more of an optional thing to get some additional shots. Or if you really plan on doing a lot of POV shots, this is like the best camera for POV shots, I guess. So the last camera I have in my bag is actually not a real camera, and it's also not in my bag, but it's in my pocket, and it's my phone. So this is the iPhone 16 Pro. I've been super impressed with the quality that comes out of this phone, and it's actually a really good addition to my A6700, because with the Sigma 18-50 I miss a wide angle lens and I don't have a real telephoto lens. And this is actually where this phone comes in. It got the wide angle lens and it got the 5x telephoto lens, which is actually a 120mm lens, which is quite insane to have it in your phone and to have it with you all the time. And when you're traveling, you want to get these small shots of life in between, like the train ride or the taxi and so on. And this is where the iPhone shines, because it makes it so much easier to capture these small moments in between. And with ProRes and Apple Lock, you can easily match this camera in the post-production to the Sony camera or to other cameras. That's why I'm really impressed with this thing. So this is like a good thing to have in your toolkit, in my opinion. So also in my bag I have these small bags, and they are great for organizing stuff in your bag. This one holds my batteries, and then we have this bag which holds different pieces of equipment. This is stuff I always keep in my bag. And this little guy helps me to get really creative shots. It's also a good option if you don't want to bring your tripod with you. You can just attach this to a handrail and so on, and then you have a replacement for your tripod, for example. It's just a great tool to get creative, I would say. And speaking of tripods, the tripod I use is actually this one. I think having a tripod in the toolkit is a very important thing, because especially if you want to film content like me, which is like the cinematic vlogging stuff, you also want to film yourself. So you have to put the camera somewhere and like walk at the beach, and it might feel a bit stupid, but these shots are actually really important to get, to make it personal, to introduce yourself to the audience, to show yourself in your videos. And you always need a tripod for that, because otherwise it's just a hassle to set up or find a good place to put your camera, and then you can't really find the angle and so on, and a tripod makes life so much easier. In my opinion, this one is really good because it's not too expensive, and it's really small and really lightweight, and it does the job for me. So last but not least, I can't go anywhere without my MacBook Pro. It has an M1 Max chip in it, and it's fast enough for all of my editing stuff. And on the outside I have this little pouch, which is called Afterplug. I'm not sure who came up with this name and thought it would be a great idea, but this is where I always put my SSD drive. So you can just slide it in, and you can also put a cable in there as well. So I always have my SSD and my cable on my laptop, and you can just edit like this. So guys, this is it. This is my camera bag. This is the equipment I use for pretty much all of my videos. And if you have any questions regarding any of the gear I use, or maybe why I don't use certain gear, just ask in the comments down below, and I will gladly answer all of your questions. And yeah, thank you for watching, and see you next time.